everyone, welcome to Open Captions on Spring Nectar TV with me, Kavipriya. Knowing yourself is the beginning of wisdom, said Socrates. But what does that mean to know yourself? Or how do you come about knowing yourself? Our special guest today is Sharon Angel, CEO of A North Production, published author of the book, The Courage to Identify Who You Are, documentary and filmmaker, humanitarian and motivational speaker. Join us in conversation as we talk about her life journey and her courage to identify who she is.
Sharon Angel was born in the coastal city of Chennai, southern India, a melting pot of cultures and beliefs. With a last name that was well known across the subcontinent, Sharon was from a family of service and evangelism. Facing the camera and connecting to an audience from a very early age, she was expected to follow her family's footsteps. With everything pre-planned, from faith, marriage, profession, and legacy, Sharon experienced an identity crisis that forced her to discover her true self. In her book, The Courage to Identify Who You Are, Sharon shares her struggles and a blueprint for breaking the mold and finding your true self. Sharon, welcome to our show.
Thank you so much. It's great to be here.
It's great to have you as well. There is a saying, the happiest man alive will look into the mirror and see himself exactly the way he is. It's such a profound line, and it's by J.K. Rowling. And it means when you know who you are, when you know that person, then your happiness, your confidence, your purpose in life, everything aligns. In this book, The Courage to Identify Who You Are by Sharon Angel, I think that it captures that essence. It talks about how you grew up in the public light, a very sharp light, following and love of thousands of people, hundreds of thousands of people, a lot of criticism as well. And then you also have to discover or find who you are. And it gives some really practical advice or shares your thoughts on how you navigated that difficult path. How did you come about writing this book? What made you write this book?
Yeah, I'm obviously so happy to get the book out there. And I think my inspiration for writing this book and getting it out there has been my audience. All the young girls and the young boys who write to me, who message me and say, hey, I'm going through these things. How do I navigate it? And ask me real intense life questions, tough questions, and ask me, how do I make a decision for this? This is so difficult for me. I'm going into depression. I'm going into lonely times. I'm going into anxiety. How do I navigate through different things? So I wanted to share my experience and just give them some encouragement, some motivation to think through different things, not just give them answers, not just give them, hey, this is what you should do, but just allow them to open their mindset and tell them, choose freedom, choose the courage to be able to dream and go forth and work toward whatever you want to do.
So you've been in the public light. People have known you right from that very little girl. Your childhood has been in front of the camera. I remember seeing you on TV with curly hair, and I remember seeing you vividly, you and your brother and sister. You've been before camera, before people, but interestingly in the book, you talk about, when you look at those videos now, you talk about, you see that girl, but you also see pain. You're reflecting so much about that sense of belonging, but not really belonging. Although you had that famous last name, very respectable grandfather, Dr. Dinakaran, and yet being everywhere and not still belonging anywhere. Tell me, what was your childhood like?
That's a very intense question, but what I meant when I saw pain was, I think I've always been different. I have had different dreams, I've had different passions, and not to be ungrateful in any way, because I had a wonderful childhood. I think anyone would, from the outside, they would say, you had everything, you have everything. Why do you want to go a different path? But my dreams were different. My passions were different. Of course, it was aligned with service. Of course, it was aligned with giving to people, but it just had to take a different route. I didn't know how to materialize it. I didn't know how to vocalize it back then, but I always had that nudge. I always had that, that deep feeling inside me that I wanted to do something different. So I constantly had to push myself. And every time you're in front of the camera, every time you're in front of people, and if you saw my life, we were, before school, if school was at 9 a.m., we had to go to the studio at 5 a.m. in the morning, and we'd be there until 8 and then rush to get ready to school. And then even after school, we would be in the studio, we'd be recording something. And then we didn't have weekends. We would always be in some kind of meeting, in some kind of family event, in some kind of public event. So in no way am I complaining, because it all came with the success. It all came with, whatever hard work we put into our studio time, whatever hard work we put into camera work and so on, it paid off. But my childhood was not the regular childhood. It wasn't the normal childhood. And I think there was that need to be a child, to have that innocence.
Yes,
but at the same time, there was that fight to have a different dream and like work on that dream. And I think that's what triggered many of the other situations in my life as well.
Yes, the triggers. We talk about the triggers very much in the book, and I saw that from the very first. You're talking about probably one of the early triggers was a life-changing event when you lost your grandfather. It was, I'm sure, it was very difficult for a lot of people, but especially for you guys, for the family. And probably after that, you were able to fully recognize. You're probably 15 years, a teenager. But you talk about hitting this wall or getting to that place. And you've been there many times, right? And it's that place of paralysis. You don't know what to do, right? You have to do something, but what if I fail? What should I do? And it's a slippery slope, and slowly you might sink. When you were in that spot many times throughout your life, especially after those triggers, those things that were happening, did you realize you were in it, and how did you navigate through that?
The first time when I was in that place, I really didn't know what it was or what was happening. I just knew that I was highly frustrated. It was almost like being in the crossroads of life. Do I choose this way? Do I choose this way? Which decision do I make? I know that I have to make an individual choice, and then there are all these voices around me asking me to make a certain choice. So it was like all these options and all these decisions that I had to make. And being in that place of indecisiveness, being in that place of not being able to move forward, is what I call that place, what I write about in the book. And as you rightly said, I was there at many times in my life. And the first time it happened, I didn't know what that was. I didn't know what that feeling was. But then as it went on, as it happened a couple more times, I understood, okay, I'm in that place of frustration. I'm in that place of feeling so low that I don't know where to go. There was loneliness, anxiety. I would get panic attacks, and it was just like, in a very low place. But being in that place was good, because after feeling that pain, after feeling that the lowest of lows, I was able to get out of it and say, okay, this is what I felt. This is how I need to navigate it. And if I make this choice, this is what is going to happen. If I don't make this choice, this is what is going to happen. So all the options, trying to analyze my options, is what helped me get out of that place. And I think grief is, when grief hit me and when loss hit me, in the Indian culture, you're not taught to process it. You're not taught to feel it. I think we have all these rituals. We go through different periods of mourning in a very ritualistic way, but the feeling part of it hits you at different times. And for me, that brought up so many other things that I had pushed down, that I had shoved down. And then when I was in that place, I kind of had to categorize it into different places and say, this is what I'm feeling. This is what I'm thinking. I need to work through it. So it took me seasons, it took me days, it took me weeks, it took me years to process different kinds of feelings and thoughts. But doing that has definitely helped me and made me a stronger person.
And it's so true, we come from a common culture. And yes, we don't take the time to grieve. We don't recognize that. We don't take the time to heal. Have you had a closure? Have you had the time to now, had the time to grieve? And I'm sure you're very successful now, but there's always at one place you put your sorrows away in a box and you almost don't want to open it. Have you had a chance to reconcile?
Yeah, I've had so many years to process it. And right after my grandpa passed, there were so many things that we had to move within our family, personally, and also, with the organization, with my siblings, with my parents. There were a lot of moves which made us move.
Right.
Me and my sister move out of the country as well. So being in a different place definitely helped me process it.
That's really good to hear. You really did have that opportunity to reset. When you move places, it gives you a chance to kind of start fresh again.
Yeah.
It kind of brings me to the next topic. In your book, we have almost a complete chapter on the courage to fail. We come again from a similar background, our culture, where we are. And as immigrants, especially here, we don't talk so much about failure. We talk a lot about success, and we have these huge standards we have to meet for ourselves. We have to meet for our families. And you talk, even when you're 50, that standard never goes away. You tell that in that book. And this need to be perfect, right? So I found it very interesting how you have emphasized, have the courage to fail. And you had unexpected failures thrown at you. You were settled well in India, in your college, but then you had to uproot yourself and move to Canada. And you had that rejection from the university where you wanted to go. That kind of was a rude shock for you, that failure.
Yeah.
And then you kind of settled in Canada. Then again, you had to uproot yourself and move to US, and you did not want to move to the US. So let's talk about the failures you encountered and why it's important to have the courage to try and fail anyway. That's okay.
Yeah. I think that's definitely something that we need to talk about, because especially with social media, it's saturated with content that tells you need to succeed, you need to succeed, you need to succeed. And then for millennials and Gen Zs and Gen X, they have this pressure that they have to succeed right from their teenage years, whether it's being TikTok famous or being successful.
Look a certain way. Yeah, you have to look good. Yes.
Different standards, in different ways, they have to be successful. And it puts a pressure on all of us right from our childhood. And it goes all the way till we're 50, till the day we die. There's this competition to be successful. And it's not being successful in our own eyes, it's being successful in somebody else's eyes. So we go on and on and on trying to please somebody else and trying to live up to somebody else's standards. So that was a number one thing that I had to break. That was a number one lesson that I had to teach myself, to say, you have to see that you're being peer pressured into living up to someone else's standards. And I can, tell you a list of all the peer pressures that I needed to break, but I write about all of that in my book. And it was recognizing that list of things that I needed to break when it came to peer pressure and trying to live up to somebody else's standards. So my schedule was tight, and I was also processing all of these things in my personal life, and I was not ready to move to another country just yet, because I was planting
Yes.
roots in Canada. So I was very stubborn. I had a very big argument with my parents. And I think that was like the first full-blown argument where I actually voiced out what I felt, where I actually told them what I was thinking. I was like, why do I need to move? I don't want to move. It's been incredibly difficult. Are you sure? Is this what we need to do?
Right.
And I threw a fit like a child.
Right.
Because I didn't want to move. But eventually, so I, like I consider all of those things as failures, as, because I didn't get what I wanted. I didn't, in my head at that time, I didn't get to move forward. But
Right.
now when I look back at all of those things, even though I failed, I don't have any regrets that I failed in those aspects, because they taught me a lesson. They've definitely made me stronger, and I was able to voice out. I was able to actually know myself and say, okay, this is what Sharon wants. This is what Sharon thinks. This is how Sharon operates in these difficult circumstances. Until then, I was just like this, a different person, or kind of like a doll that needed to live up to other people's standards.
Just show, yeah. But you were stepping up to the challenge now. Unwillingly, didn't want to do it, but it was just building in the grit and confidence and strength in you. And looking back, you are saying like, wow, those are the things that shaped me. What I thought were failures were the foundation to this young, successful woman we see here.
Yeah.
Today. Yeah. Wow. So US was not something you wanted to move, but I can tell that you're very happy now.
Yes. Yes. Definitely opened a new door for me. So I would highly encourage people to fail before they actually succeed and start flying. It'll teach you so many things. So don't be afraid to fail.
Have the courage to fail. Try doing something that even if it scares you, try it, give it a try, right? And people are stepping out of the comfort zone and doing it. They need that slight push to try and do that. But after coming to the US, of course, since you've always been, in cinematography, making movies, so you naturally kind of inclined towards movie making, documentary making, and you went into communications. That's what you did your bachelor's and then master's as well. So you finished your education, and then the world is at your doorstep waiting to receive you. How difficult was it then in the real world for yourself to find a job? Because you talk about it was difficult to pay the bills. People think, oh my God, she's from an affluent family. She's got everything. Did she have to worry? But that's very far from the truth. You had to struggle, and you also went through some real health issues because of that stress it built around your life. So talk to us a little bit about that period of stress, health issues, and not even finding a job for a long time. Talk to us a little bit about that.
Yeah. Fear started settling in. Like, am I going to lose my life just moving from country to country, place to place, and not having any roots? So I was determined, instead of operating out of those fears, I was determined to say, there's no way I'm going to lose my life. So I'm going to study, I'm going to finish my education, I'm going to get a job, and then, whatever happens, happens. So within 2.5 years, I finished my bachelor's. And then after that, applied to a bunch of places, saw many rejections. Some of them didn't even write back, but got a job. And my first job was a researcher at a broadcasting network. And that was in a completely different state. So, packed my bags and moved there. It was very different because I learned the nitty-gritty things about studio production. I learned the nitty-gritty things of what goes behind television production. And I loved it. I really loved it. And that's when I was like, this is what I want to do for the rest of my life. I fell in love with my job. So after that, I also decided to get my master's in film and cinema television. So I was working and I was also getting my master's, and I was trying to balance different schedules, and I was pretty much like in my room either working or studying the whole time. So the transition was very difficult for me to be like, now I'm an independent woman, I have to support myself. I've told my parents, I'm going to like go live my dream, I'm going to go do all these things, I can't be dependent on them. So I learned a lot of things during that transition as well, getting my degree and working at the same time. I learned different things as well. And that is when my dream became very real to me, to be like, okay, if you want to make documentaries, you're going to have to go and do it on your own. You're going to have to find your own network. You're going to have to find your own writers and scripts and everything that comes with that. So at the end of university, at the end of graduating, when I was ready to graduate again, after graduating, that question of what are you going to do next? What are you going to do with life? Because after graduation, it's like real world hits you. You can't be under the university or the school's wing anymore. So I always had that thought, what am I going to do? Am I going to go back to my parents? Because if I go back to my parents, I felt like a failure. I felt like I would be a failure, having all this big talk and then coming back to say,
going back again, right? Like what happened? You were saying you're going to change the world. Yes, but it's real.
Yeah, so it was very difficult because I raised my own standards. I raised my own values and said, I'm gonna, make this happen. I'm gonna do this on my own. And getting into that transition again from graduation to, am I gonna get a job? What am I gonna do? Was very difficult because I moved back to my parents' house, no job. I have a master's degree, I have a bachelor's degree, but I didn't have a job. I didn't have a plan, but I only had a big dream. And all this talk. So I went into that place again where I was just taking like small gigs, working on small projects, just to like keep myself financially stable. But I didn't like what I did. It was in a completely different industry. It was a gig economy and it was exhausting. So because I didn't have a plan, I went into like, I was like borderline anorexic and anemic. I would run a fever every Sunday because that's the day I would get to rest. I was working like 16-hour days. I was traveling from place to place. And I remember how much my parents supported me then. There are so many things my dad could have said to say, oh, you said all these things, you wanted to do big dreams. What happened now? But they were so quiet. They were just patiently seeing, patiently there to see what I was doing. And then my mom, she literally used to feed me because she was afraid that I would die. Because my blood count was low. I would get like panic attacks every now and then. I didn't tell them much, but still they could see that I was suffering. But they were there to like support me quietly and help me in every way I could. And then, but like just being in that place was very difficult, but it was worth it because then again I was able to analyze and prioritize what I wanted. And then that's where my company, A North Production, was born. I registered that company name and then I just started doing small gigs here and there for friends and family. They supported me and now it's become a full-time business.
Wow. Yeah. So you did we hit that wall, that place over and over again in our life, right? And it erodes our confidence, our self-worth. We questioned so much. Maybe I should have just stuck with the job that was paying me well. I had that feeling of I got it under control versus your passion, which is the work you want to do, which you address in the book, job versus work. And thankfully, your parents were, understanding, very matured, and they didn't kind of ridicule you or put you down. All our parents love us, sure.
Yeah.
But then they also get exhausted and disappointed. Like, I told you, I've been through this. I told you.
Yeah.
Thankfully, they didn't say that, right? And you could have still,
So that's something that we all are afraid of, right? Like disappointing our parents. So
Yeah.
two things.
It's not good enough. Yeah, not being good enough. Yeah.
Our support system and religion. I feel like these two, we are so scared of letting down. We are so scared of, if I don't do what my parents say, or if I don't do what my religion says, that I'm a failure. I think culturally that's been a thing for us. And
yes,
if we don't live up to those standards, we become a failure. But actually, if you have a dream, if you have a desire that's already inside you, that's already in your gut, then if you don't work for it, then automatically you're letting them down. So that's what was ingrained in my head at that point. What have you done to actually be successful? Like, yes, you can do what your parents say. Yes, you can do what religion says. But actually, have you even tried? Have you even worked at your dream? Have you even made an effort to get one step closer to your dream? Have you educated yourself? Have you made aware? Have you gotten your hands wet to understand the nitty-gritty of production? And that was my driving force. Like, just try it, just work on it. If it doesn't work out, then you're a failure. If it works out, then you're a success, regardless of what your support system says and regardless of what religion says.
Yeah, and it's a learning process, right? Like, you had so many failures, but you were able to recognize and learn through it. And no regrets, you said early on in this show, looking back, right? So probably that's what we need to ingrain or teach our children, the future generations. Try different things. Don't be afraid to fail. Have the courage to fail and take everything as a learning, right? The success and perfection is so overrated, completely overrated. It destroys and kind of steals your joy. You've given some really practical, pragmatic tips in the book. It's wonderfully laid out. Really good job. You talk about being decisive, decision making. Especially being a businesswoman. You're doing everything, finding the contacts, hustling, running this show. You got to be smart, shrewd about making your decisions and stay ahead of your competition by not getting distracted. I think that's such an important point, and it spoke to me a lot. Tell us a little bit those practical tips about decision making and staying ahead and not getting distracted.
Indecisiveness is what will kill your passion. So I would say, if anything, make a decision and move forward. As a business person, or even at your job, you have multiple options. As a human, we all have options, we all have choices, we all have decisions to make. And the worst thing that can happen to you is indecisiveness, because it will keep you static. It will keep you in the same place that you are. And then when you don't decide, you will be seeing all these people moving forward. You will see all these things happening to other people. And then you will regret, why didn't I do it? And then comes shame, then comes pain, then comes depression, then comes like all these emotional and mental issues that you did not need to face in the first place. So whatever it is, decide yes or no, and make that a strong yes or no. I always say that a strong yes is better than a reluctant no. So if you're going to say yes, be strong in saying yes. And if you're going to say no, be strong in saying no. So you have to know what your options are. Take time to think about it. Take time to discover, if it's a yes, what is going to happen? If it's a no, what is going to happen? And be ready for it. Even if it is failure or success, be ready to face it. And that's where we need courage.
We need courage, and it's almost like a muscle. You need to practice that, even on simple things like, what should I eat tonight? What should I wear? Everything can be so like, I can't do this, I can't do A or B, but practice it. Start making quick decisions. And I think that will build into your personality. Just start with little steps of like, I'm going to do this. It's fine. Let's go with it. So you talk about pushing forward and doing it. And so well said, not making decision, indecisive could be that poison or killer to your passion. So well said, Sharon. There's as much as love and support and people following you, hundreds and thousands of people following and showing you support for the longest time, they relate to you, they know you from being a little girl to now this bright, intelligent, successful woman. There is also the other side of criticism. There's also the negativity. At one point, you had to even shut down your Facebook page. You just couldn't deal with it, and which is fine. I think we all need we need to detox and push away. Just even a normal person, like a normal person like me, negativity can get to you from social media. But when you have that public light and eye on you all the time, the negativity can really pull you down. There is criticism about even about the book a little bit, and some can say that she has had everything, and almost opportunities were handed out to her, and still she talks like, oh my God, I have to struggle so much, I had to do this and that. And people really go through struggle. So almost like you're a little spoiled and you're talking like that. Do you want to address that?
Regardless of whichever country, whichever place I was in, I had to make that change, and I had to work on those triggers, because it was a responsibility that I needed to give myself, and a responsibility that I actually had for my last name, for the heritage, for the legacy that I carry. Growing up, we've been taught to have thick skin, but if you need thick skin, you have to grow thick skin. Nobody can teach you that. Nobody can kind of push that on you or give that to you. You need to have thick skin. 2015, I shut down my Facebook account because I just couldn't control everything that was happening in my personal life, in my career. There were so many transitions going on, and I just didn't want social media to also overwhelm me. Right. And I felt like at that point, it was kind of hitting me so much that I couldn't control it. I couldn't take charge of it, and I didn't know what to say. So I think shutting down was a good idea, because at least one part of it, I don't have to deal with it right now. And when I came back is when I started Random Thoughts on YouTube. It's a YouTube series that I started, and I just talked about what was on my heart. And then I got fresh perspective about how to deal with positive news. There are so many people who are supportive, who actually understand. 99% of my audience, especially with the book, they understand what I'm going through, what it means to actually have the courage to dream and the courage to get out and work on what you want. And that one person, when they write that, it gets to you. So now I have actually gotten the strength and gotten the thick skin to be like, say what you want, because I know it's not true. You're operating on misinformation. And if you are going to write a negative comment, that's on you. That's a reflection of who you are.
It's perspective too, right? And you know your truth. You're able to align. Yeah, and that's what you think. And it's okay. Everybody is entitled to their opinion. And that's why I wanted you to speak and give your take on that. And you do have that thick skin. And as you grow and reach newer heights, you need that to hang on. And we're all human. Every life is different. Sadly, some are born in very poor families, some are middle class, some are well-to-do. You were born into a very well-to-do family. You didn't have to care so much. So many opportunities were given to you. Born with a silver spoon. I think you're quite humble. But with everything given to you, you still decided to branch out and do your own thing and not use everything that was at your disposal. Do you feel guilty about it sometimes? So much was given to me, and do you have a sense of guilt?
I think I used to be. I think that was the first thing that was, even when I was about to release this book, I'll be very honest with you, that was the first thing that happened. Why would you write about everything that you went through? Think about your sister, think about your family, think about everything that you're responsible for. You're going to throw that away and just, think about yourself. Definitely those conversations and those notes have been passed on to me, whether directly or indirectly. But it's a conviction that I have, and if I don't become who I need to be, then who am I? That question haunts me more than the guilt. So I've needed to be true to myself, and I've needed to work on it, however hard it might be, however, how many ever sleepless nights I might have had, how many ever episodes of anorexia or anemia might come. I think I would still take all the opportunities, or even if I have to say no to those opportunities, it's who I have to become. So I would definitely go in that path of constantly trying to evolve and find myself.
You moved after that job and everything again in Texas. Then you moved a completely new place. You moved to LA, to California, knowing nobody, in the home of strangers, just with 2 suitcases, thinking, okay, I need to go and make it on my own again here. You literally didn't have a job, right? And you just moved with 2 suitcases, right? You did do that.
Yeah. That was, thinking about it now, it was still, it's still fresh in my mind. The day I just booked a one-way ticket, and I packed my suitcases, and I was like, this is it, Sharon, win or lose, we're gonna go and we're gonna make it happen. Truly, it was an individual decision, and it's probably been one of the best decisions of my life. When I went there, the first 3 weeks were difficult because I didn't have a job. I didn't have too many leads. I just, had one of my friends call another friend, so a stranger, basically lived in their house. Very thankful to those strangers because they're like angels to me in my life. Took care of me, and then built contacts when I was there. Called a bunch of people, and I had no income back then, so I was just operating out of savings, and within 3 weeks I was able to afford a place, afford a car, and secure a job as well. And if the perfect word to describe it is a miracle. And
yes.
And even now, if I have anything to say, it's like, if you have the courage, and if you work hard, and if you have strong convictions and belief systems, then you can achieve anything in your life.
Yeah. And LA is a fascinating place, like the land of dreams, right? And when you will find something, you really have to hustle and push through, and being yourself, being a woman of color, and coming from a different country and moving to a new place. Did you face any discrimination, with wages or opportunity? It's all there. It's in the system. We all know it. Any experiences like that, and how you managed to face it and then be prepared for the future?
LA, the land of dreams, is actually, the land of angels is actually a subtext to land of broken dreams. More than successful people, there's a higher ratio of people who have been rejected, who are homeless, and there's so many issues there as well. But I will tell you that it's very diverse. It's one of the most diverse cities that I have been in. So that is definitely a good thing. So I see different people of different colors, so many immigrants hustling and, having the drive and the dedication to work and make their dreams happen. So that definitely gives me a boost to be like, okay, there's also somebody else who is hustling, who acknowledges the hard work and so on. But the one thing that I've consistently seen, that is an issue, that is a social issue, is a pay gap. I think
Okay.
the gigs that I do, the work that I do, or the projects that I pitch, I do see that because I'm a girl or because I'm female, I have to pitch a lower rate, or I have
You
to
have to. Oh,
get
wow.
paid lower to actually get the job. Whereas my
For the
male
same work, same
same
outcome,
qualification, same role, same experience,
same outcome, quality,
same equipment.
everything.
Yeah, the same everything.
Wow.
But just because I'm female, I do see that in my career. I do see that in my industry.
And you see it openly, like in some of the professional, I mean, again, statistics do speak to that, but in yours, probably it's more open as well, right? You have to, like you said, pitch yourself a little lower to get that, even though you're well qualified. And that is really sad. Yeah.
And also because you're fresher, you're new to the city, there's also that, oh, you don't know too much, yeah, you could have done that in a different state. You could have done all of this in a different country. But, here in LA, it's different. So, and that is also another excuse to be like, okay, build your portfolio again. And then, the gender is always used against me when it comes to pay equality, for sure.
Yeah. As you build your name and your reputation, probably it could still be, I mean, it's easier, I'm sure, a little bit better, but the challenge is still there in different forms. Yes. And we have a lot of work to do there. We should work.
And these are challenges that, I think we'll face different challenges in different cities, wherever we go, whichever industry, we're going to be facing these challenges. And we have to make sure our convictions and our value systems are in the right place to know that we're fighting for the right thing. When we say justice, when we say social justice, or when we say this is the right thing to do, I think it's very important to be aware of what we're fighting for. Number two, to educate ourselves, to do research, to say this is how it's been happening in the past. History will tell us a lot of things about what was happening in the past. And learning what is happening in the present. It's very important to learn the law, to learn the policies of the land that we are in, especially for immigrants, because we've been exposed to a different policy, we've been exposed to different systems, both in the government and culturally. And it's very important to learn wherever we are living, it is important to learn what the policies are in that land.
Right.
So that we will be, if we want to make a change, and if we are fighting for change, then we have to really have strong convictions, and like we have to know, we have to educate ourselves to make sure that we're fighting for the right thing. Because when we want to make a change, we're not just fighting for a change for ourselves, we're fighting for change for generations to come. So it's important that they also are benefited by the changes that we fight for.
Right. Have a voice, right? Have a voice, know your right. It's so that's the core to being a human being, right? We have a right, we have a voice, and make sure you exercise it for yourself and for others. Excellent, Sharon. Sharon, now we had a great conversation. I really wish we were in person. I would have given you up.
I know.
Lovely. We're going to lighten the mood a little bit. We're going to go into a rapid fire, some juicy gossip kind of questions. I think you will enjoy it, I hope.
Yes, bring it on. I'm ready.
All right. Okay. A travel destination that makes you happy.
Philippines.
Awesome. Okay. Your biggest pet peeve.
Facial hair and like shabby hair. Especially on men.
Oh my goodness. All right. Okay. Boys, please make a note, okay? What is the one morning routine you cannot skip?
Brushing my teeth.
Brushing your teeth. Yeah, simple. All right. Very good.
You gotta keep these pearly whites white.
The big smile. That's right. What is the proudest moment of your professional life?
Ooh, when I got a full-time job for the first time.
Excellent. On your own. Yeah. Very good. Well worth it. Yes. What is your best way to de-stress? How do you de-stress?
Ooh, hot bath.
A hot bath. Okay.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Hot bath with some music on. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. What was your very first job?
Full-time job as a researcher.
As a researcher. Okay.
Yeah.
Talked about it.
From the bottom. Yeah.
Your best or most favorite book?
Oprah Winfrey, What I Know for Sure.
Excellent book. You would highly recommend it. Okay,
Yeah.
good. If you have to eat the same thing every day, and if that is the case, what would that be? What would you eat?
Oh no, this is so difficult.
I know. I'm a foodie and it'll be very hard for me, but
Yes.
that's your choice.
Yes. Does thali count?
Oh man, you're smart.
Indian
So one
thali.
dish.
If that doesn't count, I'm gonna say my mom's meen kolambu.
Meen korambu is fish curry. Yes, I
Yes.
love fish curry meen korambu. Yes, and mommies make it the best.
Yes.
One thing you want to change about yourself, if there is any.
Oh my gosh, there's so many. Slow down, be patient, slow down.
Be patient, slow down. Okay, so you're a little bit always wanting, let's get it done. Let's do it. Yeah. But you really keep a calm outside, so very different inside, I guess.
Okay, good to know. Yes, I'm very
Yes.
calm. I'm very, very composed. Yes.
Inside, move the curtains. You're like, let's go. The best compliment you received.
I see that you have a beautiful soul. I see
Aw.
through your eyes that you have a beautiful soul.
That must have come from an important person.
Mm.
Beautiful, yeah. A celebrity date, who would you go with?
Henry Cavill.
Henry
With
Cavill.
Henry
Obviously, she doesn't like hairy men, obviously. You can be anyone for a day. Who would that be?
Ooh, my sister.
Your sister. Wow, interesting.
I'd be
Why is
very
that?
curious to know what goes on in her head. Especially, I want to know what she thinks about me.
The sister, by the way, also has a huge following, and she's so chill, I can tell. What inspires you the most?
A good book.
A good book really
People.
inspires you.
Actually, can I change that? People.
Sure. Yeah.
People and their
inspire you.
stories.
Their stories. Okay. Good. Yeah. The best advice you've ever received.
Do it now. Now is the time.
It's like just do it can be your tagline. Yeah. An idea that changed your life.
Why do it by yourself when you can get a team on your side?
Be smart. Be
Yeah.
smart. Okay. The most difficult decision you had to make in order for your dreams or destiny to come true.
Read my book, The Courage to Identify Who You Are.
Yeah.
So many.
So many. Yes.
The most difficult was to actually take the first step to be independent. Take that first
To
step.
be independent. Yeah. To move out of that comfort zone.
Yeah.
To be independent. Okay, excellent. Sharon, that was our rapid fire, and I hope you had some interesting questions, and we got to know you a little bit more.
Yeah.
As we wrap up the show here, I want to read from the beginning of the book, the dedication you made, and the very end, how you beautifully ended the book. You dedicated this book saying, "This book is dedicated to all of the insecure souls who will build a reliable future." Two things there, right? You're talking about people who are insecure, don't know where to go, but also you provide us, you say we can find a solution. Who will build? You read this through, and so many things out there. Let's build a solution. And the way you ended it, it just spoke to me so much. It was touching. You said, it is good to be different, but it is better to be sure of who you are.
Mm.
Have the confidence to turn down everything that is not for you. Have the courage to say no to everything that you do not believe. Have the freedom to experience every day of your life without regret. It is good to be you. So beautifully said, Sharon. Any closing thoughts, any words for our friends and viewers on Open Captions as we end this show?
Yes, I think we as women, especially Indian women, we have this narrative to follow this mold, to follow a pattern, go to school, get a couple of degrees, get married, have kids, and then in between all of that comes everything that you have been told to do as a woman. There's this cycle and there's this pattern that everybody tells you to do over and over and over again. And sometimes it's just exhausting to follow things that everybody else has laid out for you or asks you to do. If you want to do it, go ahead and do it. But if you have something in your gut that's telling you, this is what you need to do, this is who you are, follow that little voice in your gut, follow that small voice in your gut, because that is where your inspiration is. And that is where you will have the courage and the confidence to achieve your dreams. And when you do it, you will have the freedom, you will live a peaceful life. And I will also say to everyone who's watching this show, you don't have to go and follow your dreams after the fact that you've gone through pain, through regret, through shame, through unforeseen, very difficult situations in life. You can do it right where you are, what you are doing right now. Even if you had no suffering, no sacrifice in your life, you can start achieving those dreams, start pursuing those dreams now. It might be uncomfortable, it might be difficult, but when you start doing it, when you start working on those dreams, the kind of freedom, the kind of peace, the kind of confidence that you will have will be like no other. So I encourage you, I'm pushing you, I'm motivating you, whatever you want to do, whatever passions you have, go ahead and do it. You will succeed.
Wonderful, Sharon. So well said. And it kind of brings everything together so tightly, the courage to identify who you are. Thank you so much, Sharon, for being on Open Captions. I thoroughly enjoyed this show, and I hope all our friends and audience on Open Captions enjoy it as well. Thank you again.
I hope you enjoyed our conversation with Sharon Angel, the courage to identify who you are. Please continue to like and support us, Spring Nectar TV, on Facebook, Instagram, and on YouTube. Please subscribe to Spring Nectar TV on Roku and show us your support. I will see you again next time with a new guest with more interesting information and content on Open Captions. Until then, signing off, yours truly, Kavipriya.